Equations of circles. An equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So, hk are the center of the circle.
Wait, so does that mean that they'll always be the same? No?
That's why h and k are different variables, because they could be different things. So, h and k are the center of your circle. So when you go to write the ordered pair for the center of your circle, it's h is your x coordinate of your circle, and k is your y coordinate. Do you guys notice how it's subtracted in here? Do you guys see the subtraction here? The subtraction means opposite. So you're really doing opposite h, opposite k when you're dealing with the center of your circle because of the subtraction there. You'll also notice r is the radius. What is going on with your radius? What do you do with it? What do you do with it? You square it. So if your radius is 5, you really put it in as 25 in your formula. So just a few things that you guys need to know. R is your radius. HK is the center of your circle, where H is the x coordinate, K is the y coordinate. And when you do write your ordered pair for the center of your circle, because it's being subtracted H and subtracted K, you do opposite H, opposite K. All right? So go ahead and get that written down, and then flip to the next page. Yeah. I just mean like if the center of the circle, actually, I'll tell you an example, so it'll make more sense there, instead of me making a random one up, okay?
Please.
No, I'm not hot like you are right now. I feel very good with this weather, or the weather in this room. I just called it weather in this room. I'm feeling great right now. Kylie's literally shaking her head at me like I can't even right now. All right, so kind of going off of your question, here it says write the equation. Do you need me to go back?
No.
Write the equation of the circle using the given information. So remember, the equation, I didn't mean to put y equals, I'm just so used to that. So it's y minus h squared plus, I said y, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So, x minus h squared is the x coordinate of your center. Y minus k squared is k is the y coordinate. So you see how y is with the k, so it's the y coordinate, and x is with the h, so that's your x coordinate, kind of a way to tell it there. And then your radius squared. So you'll notice here, our center is at hk. And we have a radius here of 2. So when we go to put it in our circle, I said that it's opposite h, opposite k, right? So let's see why that's the case. If I do x minus a negative 2 squared, what happens with the negative 2? Minus a negative becomes a positive. So do you even have to write minus a negative then, if you just know to put it in as an opposite? No. Plus y minus 4 squared. So do you see how that switched the 4 from a positive to a negative? Equals r squared. What's 2 squared? 4. So that's what I mean by opposite h, opposite k. Casey, does that make a little bit more sense? That's your answer. That's the equation of a circle. Well, you got, I put a 2 in for that.
Oh, yeah.
You get that? Why that's the case?
Oh, I didn't learn the second. It says r equals 2. So you do it makes sense on my r equals 2.
Yeah. So there's a lot more work that goes into this next example here. Because what are the things that you need? What are the things you need to write the equation of a circle? What do you need? You need the center and what else? What's the other thing you need? The radius. So you need these two pieces in order to be able to figure out the equation of your circle. Do you guys see that? But it's giving us the diameter. And it has endpoints. So these are ordered pairs. So it's giving us ordered pairs here. So what can we do to find the center? Who knows how we can find the center? Katie? Midpoint. So we know that the center is in the middle of a diameter. Do you guys understand that? You all aware of that? Does that make sense? So to find the center, we are going to use midpoint. And if you remember back to the beginning of the school year, and we reviewed it again later on, if you want to find the midpoint, you add the x's together and divide by 2, and you add the y's together and you divide by 2. And that will give you the midpoint. So we have x1, y1, right? And x2, y2. Do you guys see that? So we're literally just adding -3 and 9. And dividing by 2. And adding 7 and 1. And dividing by 2. So I got 3, 4. Did anybody else get 3, 4? Okay. So we now have our HK at 3, 4. So that part is good. What else do we need? We need our radius. How can we find our radius? What is the relationship of the radius and the diameter? It's half. How can you find the length of something when it's on a coordinate plane? I tried not to use the word. Distance. We'll use distance. So to find the radius, we know it's half the diameter. So we're going to take half of whatever the distance is, right? Remember delta x squared plus delta y squared? Does that sound familiar to you guys? And why did I put a 1/2 in front of this unlike normally? We know a diameter, right? So we need to take half of whatever our diameter is. Does that make sense why that 1/2 is in front of there now? Because remember, our radius is half the diameter. Okay, so what is my change in x, Rob? What are my changes in x's from -3 to 9? Be careful. You're fine.
You said from -3 to 9.
Yeah, so you have to skip over 0. So how many is it really? -3 is on one side of 0 and 9 is on the other side. So how many is it really? -3. It's fine. It's -3 and 9. So what's the distance from here to here? What's the distance from here to here?
Oh, I didn't. Okay. Yeah.
I know why you're doing that. So how many is it really? 12. That's why I said like it's zeros in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Harmony. What's the change in y from 7 to 1? So we do 1/2 of the square root of 12 squared plus 6 squared.
Wait, oh, never mind.
Okay.
I don't know that I can handle this anymore. A minute. Is it 180? Okay. So go ahead and simplify that. So let's go ahead and simplify that doing our factor tree. So I got 18 times 10, which is 9 times 2, right? 5 times 2, and 3 times 3. So how does that simplify, guys? What do we take out? Take out a 3 and a 2. What's 3 times 2? So I have 1/2 of 6, and then what's left underneath? 5, so half of 6 is, so I have 3 root 5 for my radius. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So we are going to now finally write our equation. But before I do that, does everybody remember how to do the factor tree? Is anybody confused about that? Does anybody understand? Does everybody understand how I got 6 root 5? Because that's something we did a lot at the beginning of the year, haven't done much lately. Does that make sense? And we took half of it because we are finding the radius. So we do x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared for the equation. So opposite of a positive 3 is a So that goes in as a negative 3. Opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4. And then we have 3 root 5 squared. Make sure, do you guys notice how I put that in parentheses? Make sure if you're going to go try to put that in your calculator, it's in parentheses. There's a reason why I did that. What does it mean to square something? So we're doing 3 root 5 times 3 root 5, right? 3 times 3 is? 5 times 5 is? What's the square root of 25? What's 9 times 5? So we get an equation equal to 45. So it's x minus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 45. So I'm going to stop here because this was a lot of work here. First, let's start at the center. Is anybody confused on how I found the center of the circle? Do we remember that midpoint formula? Okay. Radius. Do we understand how I got the radius and why I took it half of the diameter there? Is anybody confused at the simplification here? All right. How about the plugging in here? I saw your hand up.
I was confused. I tried to put the 3 square root 5
In the calculator. So if you do that, make sure you do parenthesis 3. Just try it again. Parenthesis 3. Second x squared, which gives you the square root, 5. And then you have to do 2 parentheses because there's a parenthesis that opens with the square root. Do you see that? And then square it. Did you get 45?
3, 7, 5.
Do you see how it starts at its own? But you need to put this in parentheses. So second, insert parenthesis. Okay. So it's 3 root 5. Close the parenthesis. Close it again. So you see how that closed it in, close it, now square it. There you go. You guys need to, if you're trying it in your calculator, that's fine. If you guys want to, that is fine to try things in your calculator. What am I doing? I hit the volume one instead. But it's really, really important to understand how to put it in. So thank you for asking that. Did anybody else try to put it in their calculator and not go well for them? What's up?
How did you find 9 and 25?
Okay, so you understand 3 times 3 was 9 and 5 times 5 was 25?
Yeah.
So I just did the square root of 25, which is 5, and then I did 9 times 5. Yeah, any other questions there? Are we doing okay then?
Can you just say something about the same number? It's going to be 5 already.
Okay, we have a center at the origin and a radius of the square root of 8. What does it mean by the center at the origin? What does that mean? What is the ordered pair if it's a center at the origin? So we have a center at 0, 0 and a radius of the square root of 8. So we do HK again. So we do x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, what is being squared this time? What's our radius? Square root of 8. Okay, before I do anything, is anybody confused on how I got that? I lost the 8 when I went backwards too many times. Look at that and just make sure, because if you can't plug it into your equation by yourself, then obviously you're going to have some issues with the homework tonight. So are there questions there? All right, so what's x minus 0? It's x. So this is just x squared plus y squared. And then if we do the square root of 8, that's the square root of 8 times the square root of 8, which is the square root of, what's the square root of 64? 8. Bless you. So we have a center at 3, 5. So the center of the circle we're given is at 3, 5. And we have another point somewhere on the circle at 7, 6. Remember what we need. We need 2 things. What do we need? The center. Do we have that already, though? we also need, how can we find the radius if we have the point on the circle and the center? What can we do? We already have the midpoint. We already have the center of the circle. We need the distance of the radius, don't we? We need the length of the radius. Do we have to half it this time? If it's from the center to a point on the circle? No, isn't that the definition of the radius, center to the point on a circle? This is already the radius, so that's why we're not going to take half of it this time like we did on the other one. So to find the radius, we are going to do the distance formula again. Jill, what is my change in x for my radius? So yeah, you said 4? Yeah, from 3 to 7 is 4. What is my change in y, Morgan? 5 to 6 is 1. So we have 4 squared plus 1 squared. Can you do a factor tree for 17? Oh, it's a prime number. So our radius is the square root of 17. Do we have all the information we need to be able to write the equation now? Do we have all the information we need to write the equation now? Okay, Carmichael, put it into the circle equation for me. Good.
Squared plus 5, y minus 5
Good.
equals square root of 17.
Yep. What do we have to do with the square root of 17 though? Square root. Everything has a square on it, which makes that formula a little bit easy to memorize, but you guys have to have it memorized? No, because you have a green sheet, so this might be a good thing to put on your green sheet. So this doesn't change, so I have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals, and then I have the square root of 17 times the square root of 17, which I think is 289. And what is the square root of 289? 17. Okay, well now what happens when you're given to it on, do you need me to go back?
Yeah, just
You're fine, just tell me when you're ready. So the next ones are going to be on a graph. So you can kind of count the radii, and you can kind of figure out the center from the graph, as long as you have that horizontal or vertical. Are you good now?
yeah.
Okay, so we need, remember, the center and the radius. So what is the center of this circle here, Cameron? What's the center of this circle?
-3, 4.
So we have a center at -3, 4. Hunter, what's my radius? Radius, you can literally just count exactly how far out it is. Just choose a horizontal point away from it. So do you guys notice that you can count on a horizontal line how many spaces it is? So remember the definition of the radius, it means it goes from the center to a point on the circle. So if you count that, that is 4. So we have a radius of 4. Okay, Devin, get it into the equation for me then.
X plus 3 squared plus...
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at all the screaming that is occurring. Go ahead.
Y minus 4 squared plus 4 squared.
Good. Sorry about that. I just literally, like every other second, there's somebody screaming out there.
Check it out.
I know. I feel like there might be something going on out there. So do you guys notice? Devin did a really good job here. Do you guys notice how he switched the sign? It was a negative, so we put it in as a positive. And this one was a positive, so we put it in as a negative. Don't forget to do the opposite there. What is 4 squared? 16. So we're equal to 16.
Miss Brandon, can I just go check it real quick, please?
No, we're good.
Miss Brandon, it's gonna bother me all day. Yeah, Miss Brady, what if somebody's getting hurt? Can I use the restroom?
No. Okay, so we need the center and the radius. Kylie, where is the center at on this one?
Two?
That is a 2, yeah. So what is it as an ordered pair?
It would be
I'll pick you up.
0, 2.
Helena, what's my radius?
5.
So we take a point on the circle and the center and we count across, and that is 5. So Ian, give me the formula for this one then.
It would be x squared.
Right? He decided that doing x minus 0 didn't make sense because if you subtract 0, is it going to be there? No. Plus what?
Y
Minus 2
minus 2 squared.
equals
Wait, no, 25.
5 squared, which is 25. So some of you guys might not need to do that middle step, right? You might just be able to get that answer now that you've done a few, so that it's not as much work maybe. And now we get to do a fun thing of graphing these circles, and you get to see how wonderful my circles are going to look while I try to trace them. Okay, so we need the center of the circle and the radius to be able to graph it. How are we going to find the center of the circle? Where's my center at? Where's my center at here, guys? HK is here, right? So is there any numbers between the x and the square or the y and the square?
Nope.
No, so we have a center at 0, 0. How do I find the radius? Because my radius is not 9. Remember, this is r squared. So, Helena, what do I have to do with it?
You take the square root.
Right, to undo something that's squared, you have to take the square root. So we're going to do the square root of 9, which is 3. So we put a point at 0, 0, and then you're just going to do all of your horizontal and vertical points. You're going to count 3 to the left, 3 up, 3 to the left. I said right. I should have said right. So 3 to the right, 3 up, 3 to the left, and 3 down. And then you'll connect those points.
This is not a circle. It's okay.
Mine is like a...
No, look at mine.
Mine is like a blob. No, don't connect it like that. I will not give you points. You have to make it look like a circle. It should not look like a square. Even if it's a blob, it's better than a square.
It looks like a diamond. Does that work?
That's not a shape. Yes.
Yes, it.
No, that barely does, but that's okay.
Mine looks like a square, right?
Make sure they're rounded, not square shaped. Some of you guys are literally trying to draw a square. That is not right, though. Your center is 0, 0. So you should be counting 3 in all directions from 0, 0.
Why is life so hard?
You can't draw a circle like that because you like
You know it's a circle. All right.
This is easier than this one.
All right, guys, where is my center? Did I not change this number? I swear I changed this number on my notes. Guys, this should not say 2549. This should just say 25. Because that's not going to go well. So make that just 25. Where is my center? Yes. Be careful.
1.
1, -2. Remember, it's opposite H, opposite K, right? So that means that this H is 1 and K is -2 for the center of our circle. Again, make it just 25 there, guys, not 2549. I thought I had changed it when I made it, but apparently I did not. So what is my radius then, Iku?
5.
The square root of 25 is 5. So we're going to put a point at 1, -2, and count 5 up. 5 to the right. 5 down. Again, make sure it does not look like a square. All right, guys.